Hi, welcome to my happy place. I'm just hopping off real quick this morning because I want to show you a little border sashing design that we did as a group yesterday. And what I challenged myself to do is make a design using only my 12-inch arc. And this is what we came up with. I love this. It turned out awesome. So what I have here is I have a 3-inch um, inner border, I would call it. What I did was I drew a line down the center to make sure that it was cut in half. I did not want to go all the way to the edges here. I wanted some breathing room. So what I did was I went in and measured an equal distance on both sides. And I drew in a line. And those are going to be our reference lines for what we're doing. Now what we're going to need for this is, of course, our spacing gauge. And we're going to need our 12-inch arc. That's it. That's all we need. Now I lucked out because when I started measuring things out, my brown stripe to my brown stripe is exactly 1 inch. What luck is that, right? So it's 1 inch from here to here. And what I want is a 2-inch motif. So I start on this and end over here, and it works out perfectly. So what I want to do is I want to stitch from the center out to this point and then back to the center. And then I'm going to keep going around and around. So let me show you how I did that, okay? I'm going to take my spacing gauge and I'm going to set it right here because this is exactly where I want to end up, is right here. And if you don't have the luxury of a fabric that measures out perfectly, go ahead and just draw your vertical lines at 2 inches apart. Okay, so here we go. We're going to come down. And we're going to stop right on that line. And I'm going to twist my piece here, and I only do that because I want to make sure that you guys can see this really well. So here we go. I'm going to come back to that center line and stop right on that brown stripe. And now we're going to go in this direction. And here I'm going to use my spacing gauge. There we go. It's always best to be able to stitch in different directions because as you can see how convenient this is that I don't have to move this entire quilt. I'm just stitching around. Okay, so use my spacing gauge and come right back to where I started. And there we go. Now, you could leave it just like that. You could have a string of diamonds. I mean, that is just adorable in and of itself. But I want to add more. So I'm going to come down this way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist my 12-inch arc so that the first etched line falls right at this point here. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to only stitch to that 1-inch line and I'm going to stop with my needle down. Now I'm going to come back and meet up with the original point here, and I'm using my spacing gauge to do that. Perfect. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line my template up, my ruler, on that first etched line. What that does is it gives us about a 1/2 inch inside diamond. It's about a 1/2 inch on the center away from the original. And again, stopping on that brown line for me. If you have to draw out the 1 inch, that's fine too. And the 2 inch, yeah, that works. Okay, so the only flaw that I saw in this design is what happens is it brings us back to where we started. Well, we already have our motifs done back here, so we want to get to this end further down. So what I did here was I just decided I was going to go ahead and stitch right down the center, which is exactly what I did. And it brings me to where I start the next motif. Okay, why did I pick this one? I picked this one because I wanted to show you how to put a partial in, a partial motif. When I started the design, I started in the center of my sashing here. So I came from the center out to one side, and now I started at the center and I'm coming out to the second side. What you will notice is this is my 1 inch right here. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be doing just a half a motif. Let me show you how I do that. I'm going to go ahead and put my spacing gauge in here because I want to end up right at this line that I drew in to give myself some resting space. So here we go, and I'm coming right to that seam allowance, or that seam here, and I'm going to go ahead and adjust my foot a little bit. The reason I need to do that is there's a lot more fabric right here under that seam than there is over here. So now what I want to do is I want to come down here, and that's going to be half an inch, I believe. So I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to stitch back to my center. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how that's going to be done. There's a 1/4 of an inch, and how I know it's a 1/4 of an inch is because my stitching is right on the edge of my foot. So I'm going to come down just a little more. I am going to go ahead and line up my template so that I know exactly where I need to be. Okay, and there, I think we've got it. So now I'm going to come back to my center. There we go. Again, I'm going to use my spacing gauge and come out till I hit my seam allowance. Get one more stitch in there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to stitch down on the seam allowance. Oops, there we go. And I think I need one more stitch in there, just one. And I'm going to go ahead and line this up from this side, and it's okay, it works. And I'm going to come back to my center line. Okay, and now to finish the design, I'm going to go ahead and go right down that center line that I've got there. And well, I really like this design. I figure I want to do more. I love just quilting things to death. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to travel down to this line that I drew in, which is about 5/8 of an inch off of the edge of this seam. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my piece here. I'm going to use my spacing or my ruler to help me stitch nice and straight. And there we go. And you all know the best way of getting good at traveling is by practicing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and twist this a little bit, but not all the way because I don't want all the bulk inside of my throat here. I'm working on a vintage machine, and I don't have but about 5 inches of throat space there. So now what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down and I'm going to enclose those diamonds. There we go. I'm just going to go backwards, it's easier. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and enclose those diamonds with 2 lines of stitching, one on either side. Now, let's talk about one other thing we could do if we were so inclined, is we could start here and stitch up to this point and back down again, which would really embellish this design. However, because of the stripes being rather simple and geometric, I'm going to choose to leave this the way it is. If I was going to do an all over design, what I might do is just go ahead and keep doing the diamonds, and basically I'm going to be putting them inside. I'm going to be meeting them up and lining them up together, and that really will make a beautiful fill design. It'll be a lot of fill, but it will be well worth it. So here I've got my line stitched here. I'm going to go ahead and stitch on the other side, and I will be back then to show you the finished project, okay? Okay, here we are at the very end, and I'm just going to go ahead and finish up my straight lines here. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I will come back and bury the threads. In the meantime, I would love how this design turned out. Isn't that cute? It's nice, it's clean, it's modern, and yet it has a feeling of nostalgia in it. So don't be afraid to challenge yourself. As I said, what I did was I challenged myself, saying I was only going to use my 12-inch arc to come up with a design that I really fell in love with. And I did. I really fell in love with this. I still think coming back here and putting one more line like this would really finish it off, but then again it might be too much. So normally what I do in a situation like that is I would grab out a practice piece. I would do it over on a practice piece, see how I liked it, and if I liked it that much, then I would come in and I would add that to it. I hope you've enjoyed this little kind of impromptu video here this morning. At least it's morning where I'm at. And I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, go ahead, share, and don't forget to hit that little bell so you'll be notified each time I put new content on. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. And until we meet again, let's quilt.